Do you just love those long, boring, questionably relevant meetings that you have to sit through and work?
We don't have any of those at CBS Mornings or CBS
Actually,
Mornings Plus.
I will say Shauna Thomas, I'm not just saying this, she's our executive producer.
Yeah.
She runs an entertaining meeting.
And a tight
Compliments
ship.
at the top.
Yep.
People turn out for the compliments. Yeah.
They're fun.
Yes.
She
says
does that, thank you.
Jinx. All right, we're gonna. Well, the meetings. The thing about the meetings is, they ruin that hour that you're in the meeting. They may actually ruin your whole day. There's a new article in the Harvard Business Review that calls the sinking meeting feeling a meeting hangover. And a survey from UNC Charlotte and others finds that more than 90% of people occasionally experience these meeting hangovers, and more than half of those people say the hangover hurt their overall workflow and productivity. UNC Charlotte professor Steven Rogelberg is one of the researchers behind that study, and he's also the author of The Surprising Science of Meetings. And he joins us now with some meeting hangover remedies. Professor, thank you very much for being here. You have a very unique area of expertise. I'm curious how you got into it, and then if you could just define meeting hangover better than I ever could.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Ever since I was a little boy, my mom always wished that she would have a meeting scientist in the family. So there was a lot of pressure for me to do this.
I love it.
So what is a meeting hangover? Well, a meeting hangover is the idea that when we have a bad meeting, we just don't leave it at the door. It sticks with us, and it negatively affects our productivity, and we ruminate about it. And what's so interesting is that when we have a bad meeting, we can't keep it to ourselves. We feel compelled to tell someone else about our bad meeting, thus leading to co-rumination, and we negatively affect their productivity.
Ugh. Co-rumination is the worst, isn't it?
But also the best.
Yeah,
I like the
it feels
co-ruminate.
good.
You're one of my favorite co-ruminators.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Same.
true. Yeah.
Well, so Professor, tell us what makes a bad meeting so bad.
There's so many reasons, right? So it starts that there's really no reason to meet. It could have been an email. The agenda topics are irrelevant. Poor facilitation. Meetings are bloated in size. Too long. Domination by a small number of people. And when the meeting ends, it's actually not even clear what was decided.
So then how can leaders, managers, anyone in that kind of position, what can they do to make a meeting better and avoid these hangovers?
Well, it's kind of the opposite of those things. So keep the attendee list small as possible. Remember that the more the leader talks, the lower the rating of effectiveness. Thus, the meeting leader needs to talk less and facilitate more, right? Keep the meeting tight, don't run over. But I actually want to share with you an innovation and agendas that might just be the best preventative medicine for a hangover. You ready for that?
Yeah,
Ready.
let's do it.
All right, good. So instead of organizing your agenda as a set of topics to be discussed, try organizing the agenda as a set of questions to be answered. This action causes the meeting leader to really think about the meeting and what they're hoping to achieve. By framing agenda items as questions, you have a better sense of who really has to be invited to the meeting. They're relevant to the questions. By framing agenda items as questions, you know when to end the meeting. And if the meeting has been successful, the questions have been answered. And by framing your agenda as questions, you create this engaging challenge that draws people in. And if you just can't think of any questions, it likely means you don't need a meeting.
You don't need a meeting.
Professor, this between us here, us three, has been a very productive meeting so far, structured around questions. I have just one final one. If you have a bad meeting and you want to vent, it does feel good to vent, but you have this concept of a good or a bad way to vent. Can you talk about that for us?
It is okay to share with your colleagues and be your authentic self. And if you've had frustrating moments, to share it. However, ultimately, the types of conversations that result in real recovery are those that tend to be more problem focused, right? Chatting with your colleague about how to deal with the situation for the future, right? Getting their thoughts, engaging in sense making where you're trying to understand, taking different perspectives on what just happened. Those types of conversations increase your skills and your resilience when you do have a bad meeting.
Great advice, Dr. Steven Rogelberg. We really appreciate it.
Rogelberg.
Rogelberg. Rogelberg, apologies. Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir. Your
Thank
mom
you.
is very proud. You've got a lot of
Yes.
expertise in a very important area of life. We appreciate it.